for 5 minutes.
Thanks so much, Chair, and thanks so much for coming today. Look, I'm really glad I got the chance to show up at committee today and partake, because this is such an important issue. I represent the riding of Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound, a very rural riding in Ontario, and in a riding that's actually the second highest demographic of seniors, which presents another challenge. We'll get to that. But I just want to commend you on the part of your report there, I think paragraph 2.69, where you basically point out that neither Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada nor the CRTC could tell Canadians whether the affordability of internet and mobile cellular connectivity had improved. It's a pretty damning statement, and I just want to provide additional evidence as somebody that personally can't get over 5 megabits per second down as service, but I don't even get that because, of course, the service providers don't actually deliver what they advertise, and it's only at 3 any time that I've checked it. But I'm just one of many of the residents in my riding that just have no connectivity, and this in particular becomes a huge issue as the federal government moves more and more services, as you identified, to the digital realm, and when you don't have it. A couple points I want to get to is in your paragraphs talking about not only the internet service availability map. I really appreciate the question that Mr. Shields brought forward about how there's that misperception, because I actually have local internet service providers that are trying to provide that service, but when they apply to ISED or to try to get the maps updated, they've been going on 2+ years to even get the service that they are providing on the map or to be recognized. And is this common more than just in my riding? Is this a common problem? I think you hinted at throughout Canada.
Well, we did speak to service providers and other stakeholders, and it was a very common comment that we received, was that the maps were outdated over many months, I mentioned earlier, and that's sometimes inaccurate information. And that's why we made a recommendation to the government to find a better way to challenge that. One, you need more timely information, but also then you need to sort of double check and challenge the information to ensure that the quality is there. The service providers shouldn't be the quality mechanism to have an accurate map.
Another thing on the funding side of the house, in particular, the Universal Broadband Fund, is one of the key elements that the federal government is trying to provide support to this. My pushback on the whole fund in the first place, the money seems to be flowing to the wrong sectors or wrong providers. The vast majority of this money seems to be going to, in my observations, to your major internet service providers, the big telecoms, and not as much to these smaller, especially for the rural-sized areas, because they just can't compete for it. And I was shocked, actually, and disappointed when I know, and I know Mr. Tim there, he's in the same neck of the woods in Western Ontario, is that the SWIFT program, the Southwestern Integrated Fiber Technology Program, that was funded previously by the federal government, but federal, provincial, municipal, and private or internet service providers all had a funding. It worked great, and what the benefit of that program is it actually concentrated more on the last 5 miles. My biggest complaint about a lot of this funding is going to these service providers to put internet where they're going to go anyway, where the business model is. And I think tying to the national strategy, the biggest shortfall is it's not focused, and the money's not flowing to the most expensive spots to get to those last, 5-10% of the Canadian population, but in particular in those rural and remote areas. Did you suss any data out that sort of backs up that my observation there?
So you had many observations in there. I'll try and tackle a few things. I think the money going to larger service providers is because most of it's about infrastructure, and they're the ones who are bidding and can afford that kind of projects. We do know that a lot of projects came from municipalities in order to expand access. When we look at the funding, so you talked about how costly it is to go the last mile. That was actually one of our recommendations. The strategy has not fully costed out what it will take to reach everybody by 2030. And those that are left are far and in remote areas and will likely be very costly. And that's why we recommended that that costing needs to be done now in order to make sure that the resources and the money is available to meet the 2030 target.
Chair, recognizing I'm pretty much out of time, I just like a quick comment, is that within the national strategy is on the maintenance aspects too. We're getting lots of complaints that, you know, not only is it's about the reliability side of the house, it breaks down. I had a local area in my riding just this past weekend where, again, seniors, that the only thing they depend upon is their phone, their internet, and the companies that sort of maintenance breaks down. And unlike 30 years ago when we had a lot more people were on landline and everything like that, it was dependable, it got fixed quickly. Now it's taken 72, 96 hours. Anyway, recognizing it.